Hi, this is Cheryl back with you from Farmhouse, Frugally. Today I have more spring inspiration with IOD molds and clay, joining in on the Last Thing Thrifted collaboration. Well, anybody that has been following me for a minute knows that I rarely thrift anything because of the amazing good table at my dump, as well as the stash that I have. So I'm starting with a cuckoo clock that my husband had in his stash because he is a clock repairman. He needed the interior stuff and left me the case. So I am using the Brooches IOD mold and the Blossoms IOD mold, and I am just taking some clay and dressing up the front of the roof line, the little bird's entry hole and the little window with some of that clay to give this a little bit more of a birdhouse look and dress this up a bit. It does get blown over in the wind when I spray it black and breaks off some of the trim pieces on the roof, but I'm just going to work with this. And the black, of course, is just what I want as an undercoat. I am taking a silver sage green that I have in my stash, and I am going to paint over the black with 2 coats to apply some transfers. These are the shiny kind of transfer I got, I think, on Amazon quite some time ago, and would like to use up what I have in my stash because they are difficult to use. They peel the paint back if you're not careful, and they're just kind of shiny. So I do like the flowers, but they're a little bit harder to work with than some of the other ones. I'm also going to use my little sparrows mold and add a bird to the outside edge, add a little butterfly with those transfers. And then once I have that all glued on and transferred on, I'm going to finish this off. I just took a little couple drops of black paint and added it to my white wax, mixed it together, and kind of got a dark gray wax to wax over all of this. Then I am going to go ahead and go into my stash and take some bits and pieces of it's kind of like a grapevine wreath and some moss for a nest. Then I'm going to paint 2 little pieces of clay that I shaped into eggs with a blue. I am going to just hot glue a little bit of that stick, that little bit of wreath to the back, and fill that in with some moss. Put a couple feathers and put the eggs in there and just make that look like a bird's nest. And that is item number 1. I did go back and add a little bit more green moss to the top window. And I think that that's really a very pretty spring color. And I like the butterfly and flowers on there to dress that up. Today's collaboration, Last Thing Thrifted, is hosted by these lovely ladies. I will leave their channel links in my description box, as well as a playlist for everyone who has joined in with the things that they have thrifted and flipped. That takes me on to item number 2. I have this IOD clay, and I have been wanting to make a pocket. I made a pocket when I first started my channel years ago out of clay on some beautiful antique barn board. And I got the idea to make another one recently when I was shopping in an antique barn, and I saw some of these, that it would be nice to make something a little bit similar, because I have this fancy rolling pin and I love the design that it gets me. But it can be similar if you don't have a rolling pin like this. If you used like a piece of lace or oily or something like that, you might be able to roll that over with a rolling pin and give yourself an imprint. Otherwise, you could use an IOD stamp or anything that you have in your stash. I'm going to attach that to a little round bottle. I'm just using my epoxy bottle just to give me a rounded shape. Cut another piece for the bottom, and then I'm going to score it a little bit, add a little bit of water, and I'm going to attach the bottom to the top piece and let that sit overnight to dry thoroughly, rounding it over to make sure these 2 pieces fit together. The next day, when it's fully dry, I am going to go ahead and cover that with some white paint and let that dry. And my inspiration for this, not to be the pocket that I had seen at the antique store, but my own, was this gorgeous piece of antique beadboard that I had in my stash. And I thought, how beautiful would it be to apply it to this gorgeous piece of beadboard? So that is what I'm doing here. Stay quick and thick wood glue there to have that a permanent hold, and then gave that quite a while to thoroughly dry. And then, of course, I wanted to add some antique wire that I had in my stash to go with the age and feel of this. So I just put that in the 2 holes that happened to be there already for when the beadboard was taken off of the wall. And I just twisted that with my jewelry pliers and made 2 little twirls to hang that from in the event that I want to hang this up. I use some antiquing wax to cover over the cut ends, as well as to cover over the clay piece to cover the white paint and protect the paint, but also to give it that beautiful vintage look that I love, causing the design on the clay to pop out. Now I'm just going to wipe that back, and then I am going to fill this little pocket with some gorgeous florals that I have in my stash that I believe I got at Michael's a year or 2 ago, and they look so real. I just absolutely love the way that they look in this sweet little pocket. So the little piece of beadboard that was in my garage was the only piece that I had thrifted on this. The rest of these items have been in my stash for a bit. And I'm showing you here against the neutral wall in my bathroom. And it's sweet, but I thought maybe it needed a little something more. And I had just painted the spare bedroom pink. So I decided to hang it up in there. And then I decided to add a little lace bow to the edge of it to finish it off. And I think that that is probably where it's going to end up once I get a few other pieces to put with it. The next item is a sweet little white wood frame that I thrifted at the Goodwill bins. I disassembled it and cleaned it very well. And then once I had that done, I had purchased these sweet little almost postcard type ephemera. I've been adding some shabby sort of French country vintage items to my home office, so I decided to dress up this pretty little frame, and I absolutely love this IOD Sparrow's Nest mold. And so I am just taking some IOD clay. I am pressing into the smaller of the 2 nests, which is just absolutely spectacular. Glue that onto the corner and let that dry thoroughly. I also added a little sparrow from the same mold to the other corner. And once those are both somewhat dry, I'm going to go ahead with some antiquing wax and wax over those and let that design really pop out, giving me that beautiful vintage feel that I love. Certainly you could paint them if you want. I did opt to paint the leaves green in the nest to give that a little bit of dimension. And that is pretty much all I did to this frame, and that is all that this frame needed. I think that it is absolutely stunning and love it in my home office. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to hit subscribe. If you have not subscribed, I have so many things coming up. And also don't forget to hit the bell so that you don't miss any of the creations that I have coming your way. And that takes me on to item number 4. I had thrifted this cute little candle holder at the Goodwill bins, so probably cost me, I don't know, 40 cents at best. I am going to take that candle out and struggle with taking the interior metal pieces as well as the little metal leaves off of this, and I will not make you watch that. It was painful. I took some of this grapevine wreath or whatever it is, and I twisted it into a small little wreath and stuck that into the bottom. And then I just went ahead and added some Spanish moss, kind of like Spanish moss. I don't know. I guess, I don't know if the dollar store is having trouble finding Spanish moss or what. Somebody in Georgia, send me some, please. And then I had some of this green moss, and so I just kind of tucked that in to make that a nest, and then added a little feather, which I end up taking out afterwards because I don't like it. Took some IOD clay and just turned that into a couple of eggs. Then I went ahead and painted those eggs white, dried that with my heat gun, and then splattered everywhere my dark antiquing wax to give those a little bit of speckles. And so once I had those eggs good and dry, I can add those to the nest. And then I went through my stash to find out what else I might have. Back, I think last Christmas, I had purchased at a thrift store for $5 a huge bag of about, I don't know, 30 or 40 at least pieces of wooden items. And so I had that in my stash, and I will go through that in a minute. And then I also had gotten this chunky couch leg, I think, and my husband cut the top off of that for me and then made that straight so that I could go ahead and give this some dark antiquing wax and wipe that back and use this as the base for this little bird's nest. So once I had that all done, I just used some wood glue and some hot glue. E6000 would have been better here, probably for a more permanent hold, but for what I'm going to do with it, it's fine. And then once I attached that, then that's when I went through looking for the little birds. Now the birds are a little bit of a mustardy yellow color, and I thought, well, they look nice with the base, but the green is now a little too green, so I toned that down just a little bit with the dark antiquing wax, making that look just a little older and a little more vintage there, and then that is looking great. So I went into my florals, pulled out a few kind of viney pieces that I could twist around the wires, and then added some kind of more of a fall colored leaf that I had in my stash because it went a little bit more with the mustardy yellow bird. And then once I did that, I thought, well, I have a couple pip berries as well, yellows and oranges. I will add just a couple of those. So the coloring in this is maybe not quite as spring as the other items, but I do collect yellowware, and so I thought that I would put this over up on the armoire that I have in this mustard yellow tone. So that is how this lovely thrifted birdcage candle holder thing came out with the little chunky leg of a couch, and then I stuck another little yellow bird in the top of that peeking out. So let me know which one of these 4 last thing thrifted items was your favorite. The cuckoo clock shell, the little white picture frame, the barn board and clay, or the last bird cage. Do not forget to go over to the playlist and to the other creator channels and check out what inspiration they have for you with their thrifted items. Thank you so much for stopping by. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.